I thought in light of the fact that the casinos are being opened down in Atlantic City, instead of the homily, it would be good if we just maybe sharpened our skills with Texas Hold'em and blackjack. You know, so I was talking to Joe Lombardi at one night last week, and we were kidding around talking, and we were saying about like a deck of cards, and he was saying that if you take a deck of cards, I never really thought about this until he was talking, that if you take a deck of cards, you see that all the cards are in order. They're all the hearts, the clubs, the spades, the diamonds, and then they're all in sequence all the way from, okay, it goes from the ace all the way up to the king in each suit, and they're all perfectly in order. Now, we have to take out the two jokers, right? So, when I was talking to Joe, and he was mentioning this, now, of course, you gotta realize, like, when it comes to Joe, we love Joe, and we respect Joe, and he's got a heart of gold, he's got a great mind, but Joe has a tendency to ponder things that no human being even thinks of. You can ask Donna, who's been quarantined with Joe for 12 weeks. So Joe made this point that, you know, if you think about it, if you were to, this box, now when we open up that box of cards and we see these cards and they're all perfectly in order with all the suits, when we open this up, we clearly accept that somebody put these cards together. There's an intelligence behind the fact that all these cards are in order, or some sort of a computer. I don't know how they formulate it with the machine or something like that, but clearly this has been set up, something behind these deck of cards have caused these cards to be in perfect order. And so I thought, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that's true, right? We would assume that obviously they don't just come perfectly in order. In order for that to occur, there has to be an intelligence behind that order. Now, if you were to take these cards, and if I were to, I'll have to fine tune these are brand new, so. If I were to shuffle them, and I were to, you know, mix them up, and then if I were to take the cards and spin them around, take them all over the place, right? Now, the probability of getting all of these cards back, all perfectly lined up the way they were in the box, the probability of that would be what?
1 in 52 factorial.
1 in 52 factorial, and he's telling me it's 67 zeros?
8 followed by 67
8 followed by 67 zeros would be the probability that all these cards would go back to the way they were originally in the box. Okay, like no possibility. Now see this one, now I don't know, did any of you think about that? Only, you know, only he ponders these thoughts. So I thought about that, and I thought, you know, wow, isn't that interesting where we open up a deck of cards and we see the perfect order of that, and we clearly all accept that there had to be an intelligence behind organizing that. We would all clearly accept that. There's no way those cards are going to be in that order randomly and haphazardly. And so then I think about, let's just take the Earth for example. There's no way there is a 21% of oxygen in the atmosphere and 78 or so percent of nitrogen in the atmosphere, which is the perfect amount of percentage in order for human beings to live and breathe. It's absolutely perfect. If it were off just a little bit, it would not be conducive for human beings to breathe the air that we breathe. It has to be 21% oxygen. And what percentage is the atmosphere in the air? 21%. The Earth has to be 93 million miles away from the sun in order for human beings to exist. If we were closer, we would burn. If we were further away, we would freeze. It has to be 93 million miles away. And how far away are we from the sun? 93 million miles. It has to be perfect. And that's what it is. The Earth turns every 24 hours, but it's turning 1,000 miles an hour. Right now, we are going 1,000 miles an hour like this, and then we're going around the sun 67,000 miles. Can you feel it? This is going on. And the Earth has to turn 1,000 miles an hour turning and 67,000 miles an hour around the sun in order for everything to be absolutely perfect. And this is also perfectly tied in with the pull of gravity, right? If we were spinning faster, given the pull of gravity, we would fall off the Earth. The gravity and then the speed has to be perfect in order for life to exist on the planet Earth. And what is it? It's perfect. There is no way all of those things line up perfectly if there isn't an intelligence behind just the Earth itself and the solar system. Actually, the probability of that is more incredible than the probability of shuffling all those cards and having them all come back in suit and in sequence numerically. There has to be a divine intelligence behind all that is. When you think about it, you could have your mouth hang open in absolute awe that this is going on the planet Earth. So as we continued in our conversation, I had to look up what was the probability of the colonies defeating the British Empire. Now, back at the time, England was so powerful, the most powerful force, navy, army on the planet. And then you had these 13 ragtag colonies. And the probability of the colonials defeating England was less than 1%. There was no way. Why did those colonists defeat England in the Revolutionary War? I personally believe because it was divinely inspired. I believe in all my heart that America is a divinely inspired nation. God knew there had to be an America. God knew that we had to have a country like America with democracy and free will and free speech and elections. And yeah, we argue and we have our problems and our differences, but the bottom line is there is no government. And along with that, my God, when you think of the geniuses that were around, Madison, Jefferson, Adams, Washington, Hamilton, all of these guys, they were the perfect guys at the perfect time to create a government and a constitution to set up America. America is a divinely inspired nation. Think about it. Where would the world be if there wasn't an America? Now, there were a lot of problems, and they knew that going forward. And some 80 years or so, I think it was, the Revolutionary War started in Concord in 1775. They defeated Cornwallis in Yorktown in October of 81, but it wasn't totally over until 1783. So it was like about 8 years for them to get their independence from England. Now we go from 1783 and we go on into the first shot fired at Fort Sumter, April 12th, 1861. The beginning of a civil war. Things were pretty bleak. But think about this. Union soldiers, 360,000 Union soldiers sacrificed their life, the one life they had to live. They sacrificed their life to preserve the Union and to free slavery. 360,000 soldiers sacrificed their life for the United States of America and to free and work on the wrong, the incredible injustice and evil of slavery. They sacrifice their lives. And then we go forward, and we have this unbelievable guy, Teddy Roosevelt, who decides they're going to take 1/3 of America and say, you can't touch it. Yellowstone Park, the Grand Canyon, all these beautiful national parks and reserves are all untouchable because of Theodore Roosevelt, the right guy at the right time. And then we go forward and we think about this. In World War I, 116,000 Americans gave up their life to defeat Imperial Germany. And if it wasn't for America getting into that war, we don't know how that whole thing would have gone. And then you fast forward it and you go to World War II with some psychopath, Adolf Hitler. America comes into that war, along with the Allies. 400,000 Americans sacrificed their life to preserve the civilization in Europe and Japan. And what's beautiful about America is America gives back Japan to Japan and gives Germany back to Germany because they want to create an independence so that people can live in freedom wherever they are in the world. Then America gets involved in the Korean War. 38,000 Americans lost their lives in Korea. If it wasn't for America, South Korea would be like North Korea. Think of all the people in South Korea where they live with dignity, and they live in freedom, and they live in peace, and they live with safety, and they're free to grow because of America. Same thing in Vietnam. 58,000 Americans sacrificed their life so that the people in South Vietnam can live with freedom and dignity, and if it wasn't for America, they would be under the dictatorship of North Vietnam. America had nothing to gain. They have no natural resource. They have nothing that America is interested in Korea and Vietnam. They went there to fight against oppression and to have human beings live with freedom and dignity. This is America. Are we perfect? No. But when you look at America, when you look at Americans, our whole life is about helping human beings live in freedom and having dignity and the ability to live their life as they choose. This is where America is coming from. Now, I don't know about you. I remember I was a summer of my junior year of college, 1980. I backpacked through Europe, Freddie Laker, $1,000. And I remember coming back. I remember coming back to Kennedy Airport. And I was in Italy, I was in Germany, and France, and Switzerland, and all these other countries. And I remember coming back to America. Got out of that plane. And I kissed the ground on Kennedy Airport. It was at that moment I came to realize I love America. I am grateful to be an American. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, we are Americans. And we need to appreciate the sacredness and the beauty and the majesty of living in America. It makes me sick when I see people burning the American flag. I just don't even comprehend it. So what's our problem? What's the problem in human beings? The problem is that we're so wounded. We're needy. We have to get attention. We have to get recognized. We have issues growing up. Our parents weren't perfect. Things happen. We got bullied at school. There's always this thing of people projecting out their own inadequacies onto other people, and we wound each other. There's like that fundamental problem with humanity of ultimately saying, God, am I lovable? Can I belong? Can I be accepted? Can I live where I don't have to run any faster or jump any higher? I could just be myself. This is the problem with America. This is the problem with humanity. And I believe God knew this. And so what God decides to do in this person of Jesus Christ, he comes, he gets it. Jesus is this human being. He gets it and he understands. The problem is people don't know that they're lovable and acceptable. So he comes with this vision. He comes with this vision that you are one with the living God, that the living God dwells inside of you, that you are lovable and acceptable. You're first loved by God so that you could return that love. It makes me sick when I think of Jesus. The idea that Jesus dies on a cross to forgive our sins, and that's why he came here, really doesn't do anything for me. Because it keeps me as a victim. I'm saved and I'm rescued by someone else. Where if I look at Jesus and I look at this man on a cross, and I say, I look at that and I see this, and it's like, can you imagine if you look at the cross right now, can you ask the question, do you love me? I mean, come on, do you love me? Well, what can the guy say? The only thing he could say is, what more can I do for you? What else can I do to get it into your thick head and your heart that you are lovable and acceptable? What more can I do? What more could I do? Do we let the power of that cross, do we let the power and the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ and the kingdom within you, do we let that in and permeate our mind and our heart to transform us to know that we're lovable? Probably the greatest gift we could probably ever give the whole world is to love ourselves. Please, let's do ourselves a favor and love ourselves. It would be a great gift to everybody else. Because if we don't have that, we're projecting all this neediness and nonsense and criticism and judgment and anger out to everybody. So we here at Good Shepherd, we've got to live this. If we're not living it, how's everybody else going to be doing it? We know Jesus Christ. We know he's in our heart. We believe in Jesus Christ. We've got to take that in and allow that to heal our woundedness and any sense of feeling needy. I got to get attention. I got to get recognized. And drop all that. Lose yourself and find yourself like we were saying last week. I'm absolutely convinced that when we leave our bodies, we are going to experience that unbelievable, radical experience that all of us are lovable, accepted, and belong. And we're going to go, wow, this is fantastic. And Jesus is going to say to us, that's so great as you enter this paradise. It would have been so great if you did that when you were in your body. Why wait? Why wait for that experience? Why not let that permeate us right now? It's interesting and fitting that the solution to all the problems in the world and in America, the solution, the answer to the problems, is Jesus Christ on that cross. As Paul said, Jesus Christ and him crucified. How fitting that the antidote to all the problems is to allow that dynamic into our heart. So today, as we celebrate the birth of America, this beautiful, incredible, divinely inspired nation, we've got to let that into our hearts, and we have to live in the experience and the sacredness that America is the greatest nation. Not great because we're better than everybody else. America is great because we're into freedom and dignity and allow human beings to live and be who they are. That's what makes America great, and that's why God blesses America and sheds his grace on us. Could we now, as you're home now, put your hand on your heart as we listen to Joe sing the song, America.